Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight, we're joined by one of the greats. He's from a very good state, maybe my favorite state. You know him, Congressman Madison Cawthorn from the state of North Carolina. Madison, thanks for being with us. I feel like people have seen you a lot. You've become sort of a star of the Republican Party. You were at one time the youngest member of Congress. I think somebody just ousted you by a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks. But I want to know more about you. I mean, obviously, you're such a young person. Why did you decide that you wanted to jump into politics? Because things are a little crazy right now.
Well, Lord, thanks so much for having me on. I'm very happy to be here. But I'll tell you, I actually just got married about 9 weeks ago, so incredibly happy about that. But my wife and I, when I got engaged, we were having that normal conversation. How many kids do you want to have? When do you want to have them? And you know what? I was really trying to think to myself that night after we had that conversation is, wow, would I want to raise kids in this culture? What would that be like? It feels like they're being pulled on by every single different direction from a very young age now. And I wanted to try and fix the country before I brought kids into this world. And so I wanted to get involved very young, and I saw this as the best opportunity to be able to serve my country.
Wow. Were you surprised by the support that you received whenever you announced that you were going to run for Congress?
You know what? At no point did I doubt that we would win. I knew where I'm from. I'm an 8th-generation resident of Western North Carolina, so these mountains are my home. I was educated here. I was raised here. And so I know the people here. I know that they are freedom-loving patriots, and I know that that is probably no one more passionate about freedom, personal liberty, and personal responsibility than me. So it was just a huge outpouring of love and support from Western North Carolina, so I love my people.
Oh, well, I know they love you because I actually remember – gosh, when it was like back in October, I went with the Women for Trump bus, and we were campaigning in Asheville in Western North Carolina, and you ended up stopping by. You made this like impromptu stop at a GOP office, and nobody knew you were coming, but it was predominantly women. Let me just tell everybody listening to this, these people went absolutely crazy. When Madison came through, all of a sudden it was like, who are these ladies? And by the way, I was there with like Diamond and Silk, Katrina Pearson. We had like a nice crew. We were rolling pretty deep. Madison comes in. They're done with us. They are on to him. So I know people there absolutely love you. And we appreciated you being a part of that stop. I think everybody did. Now, you talked about getting married. And I got to tell you, I've been married for a while. I got married in 2014. Ironically, my wedding day, my anniversary was Election Day in 2016. So November 8th is my anniversary. I know, it was super cash in 2016. But we had a very nice night, a very long night. So I've had a little experience when it comes to being married. But I want to ask you, because you are a newlywed, do you find that it's different now being married than it was when you were dating or when you were engaged? How are things going?
I would say, going through the coronavirus and the whole pandemic and everything, and just the kind of lockdowns that first started, it kind of got us in a really good state right before we got married. So,
yeah, you had to really just stay together and be involved. It was kind of like being married, right?
Exactly. I mean, I'm telling you, and it was in the middle of the campaign, so I had all of my campaign staff, probably 6 of my best friends, all their fiancés and their wives, or one husband. They were all staying in my home, so we had just, for 3 months throughout, the spring of last year, we were just playing board games and just cooking food every single day and going out to campaign when we could, where we could. And so it was an incredible, I probably had the most fun quarantine out of anybody in the world.
Oh.
But I'll tell you, I loved it. Aside from the human suffering and all the hurting that happened, my personal experience was fantastic. I didn't lose anybody. It was great. But I'll tell you, when I got to come see you on that Women's for Trump tour, I don't know exactly what the left has really thought that they're going to accomplish by pissing off so many conservative women. Because y'all are, and I genuinely believe this, whenever I go to the Women's Republican Federation meetings or any of the Women's for Trump rallies, you all have the fiercest backbone. It's just a bunch of vipers who are willing to defend their freedom and save this country for the next generation. I'll tell you, the women of the conservative movement, I think, are the most ferocious, and I am just honored to be among all of you.
Oh, well, thank you. I agree with you. And I think it has a lot to do, especially I feel like women that have kids. Once you start messing with the kids, I had Jack Posobiec on the last episode that we did, and we talked about this a little bit. But once you start messing with people's kids, Madison, and I know you're not a father yet, we're going to get to that because I feel like it's coming soon, though. I feel like you're ready. We might see something happening with that. But that's when all bets are off. That's when people are like, you know what, you're coming after my kids with indoctrination. You're trying to teach them to hate this country. So many of us had, either parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins serve in the military. I know I certainly did. I had so many people in my family serve in the military, and I know what a sacrifice that is, and I'm so grateful for anyone that has served in the military. So to teach our kids to hate this country when you got people out there fighting every single day for it, it's so disgusting. And I think that's when the ladies are like, hold up, we are not going to have this. This is not going to go down this way. So we're ready to fight. And so I think that maybe you're feeling a little bit of that. I was with you last week, by the way, on Saturday in my home state and your home state, North Carolina. We were there with my father-in-law. And it was his first kind of big speech in several months. And I thought that he had so many great moments in that speech. I think one of my favorites, though, was when he talked about holding China accountable. Whenever he called out the Biden administration for so many failures, Madison. And I know, look, you're there in the thick of it. You are on Capitol Hill. You are out doing, a great job for the people of North Carolina and, quite frankly, of this country. What did you think of that speech on Saturday? Because you also got called out, by the way, but just a moment, by my father-in-law, and he was like, if I had a face like this, I would have been elected 20 years earlier, right? He loves you.
I'm telling you, getting to be mentored by your father-in-law has been probably one of the most beneficial things in my entire life. I just remember when I said, I'm trying to figure out how to bring production back to Western North Carolina. He just laid out this masterful plan that he just came up with on the spot. And I was like, wow, I see why you are the president. You should be the president of the United States. That's incredible. But I thought the speech was incredible. I thought that it had some really memorable moments. It had some incredible times where it was really drawing that beautiful illustration of the difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. When I vote for somebody, I don't look at the man. I look at the woman. I look at the policies. I look at what they genuinely believe, what they're going to do for me or for my family and for the next generation. And when you start hearing how the Biden administration is trying to create a welfare state, how they're trying to weaken our position on the global stage, trying to prop up China and allow them to get away with terrible humanitarian crises, trying to allow them to get away with the fact that they destroyed our global economy, they destroyed our economy, they took so many lives from us, and at the very best, they mishandled a engineered virus. Once looking through all these Fauci emails, we realized that we knew this virus was engineered inside of a lab that the NIH funded from America. And I think it was just a plan to really get President Trump out of office. And then also now it's trying to propel China to become one of the most major superpowers on the planet. And I think that's something we need to hold them accountable for. They owe us, Black Lives Matter members, they want to talk about reparations for people who, really have never owned slaves their entire lives. My family actually fought against slavery. People want to say that we should owe reparations to something that happened generations ago. I think if we want to talk about reparations, we need to hold China accountable, pay some reparations to the United States of America and to a lot of global economies because they destroyed so many lives, they destroyed so many small businesses, and they do need to be held accountable. So I think your father-in-law was completely dead on. I think everything that he said was right in line with how he sort of should have said it. It was a lot less fiery than it normally is, but I think it was great because he was just drawing a difference, a comparison between the Biden administration and what his vision is for America, and I think that's the exact right tack to take. I think everyone is missing some mean tweets right now and $1.29 for gas at the gas station.
Right? Oh my gosh, I say all the time, man, could I go for a mean tweet and some less expensive gas? I have a big car. I got 2 kids and 2 dogs. I'm hauling around everywhere. It's gotten pretty pricey to fill up on gas, and not for nothing, but I might have downgraded. Don't tell my husband to one lower. I might be going with the 89 now, but don't tell him I said that because he's going to be very upset about that.
Much so between
yeah. Nobody will know about that. It's interesting what you just said, though, about China, about it possibly being planned. I've heard a lot of people, Madison, talk about this. Now, you can't like post about it anywhere because I'm sure you'll be censored. Your tweet, your post will be taken down. But it's really interesting if you look at the facts and the statistics. China's was the only economy to grow in 2020 in the entire world. If you are China and you know that Donald Trump is actually putting the pressure on you. We saw phase 1 of the China trade agreement signed under President Donald Trump. We knew that he wasn't playing softball with China, that he was very much holding them to a standard that they probably should have been held to 30 years ago. He was bringing the manufacturing back to the United States, away from China, and really making them do what they should have been doing all along. Gosh, did they probably want him out of office? Gosh, did they probably want to bolster themselves in a way? So it's an interesting idea. I don't know whether or not we will ever truly get the answer to that. But if you watch, mainstream news nowadays, if you read mainstream newspapers, you certainly won't hear them asking those questions or even trying to investigate that because they're like the marketing arm for the Democrat Party. And I want to ask you something, because there was a report this week of a new Democrat PAC formed calling themselves Fire Madison Cawthorn. Now, wait a minute. First of all, you are obviously a huge threat to the Democrat Party. If they are going after you, you're 25 years old, a congressman, you got a target on you like this. What is that all about? How does that feel?
Well, you know what? If you go and look at this PAC, their number one reason for wanting to get me out of Congress is because, I held true to my campaign promises, and the fact that I contested an election which I believe was completely fraudulent. And when you start looking at these people and when you ask how I feel about it, if I am derided by career politicians, if I am hated by people who want to bring socialism into this country, if I'm spit upon by this mainstream media, but I'm loved here in Western North Carolina, then I believe that means I'm doing my job. And so when I get this, it's really an honor to me. I wear it as a badge of honor to take arrows on behalf of the people of Western North Carolina, to defend the next generation from this liberal indoctrination, from these people trying to steal their future away, whether it's through a huge deficit or if it's through indoctrination. This is something that's an honor to get to fight against that. And so, when they want to attack me because I hold true to my campaign promises, I hold true to my values, I'll take that any day of the week.
Well, it's so funny. It's such a good attitude to have, and it's an attitude that I think we in the Trump family ultimately had to develop. And what I realized was when they're going after you, Madison, it means that you're doing something right, because they're desperate to take you down at any second. I mean, gosh, just look at my father-in-law, right? There's a reason that they are so just foaming at the mouth trying to take down Donald Trump. He right now, he is just a private citizen. He has not announced that he is running for president in 2024, although, of course, they're all suspecting that that's going to happen. So their main goal is to try and disqualify him in any way possible. But I love that you have that attitude, because it's something that I tell a lot of people. When you get involved in politics, when you're doing a good job, that's when the other side really starts coming out after you. So what a good way to look at it. You were very kind to be part of the convention, by the way, that we had, the Republican National Convention back in August of last year. And you had this moment, Madison, where you stood up from your wheelchair and you really, made such an impression on so many people. I want to ask you what that was like, because maybe take us back. You had an accident, which is why you ended up in a wheelchair. I don't know that anybody expected that to happen, but what was that like to be on one of the biggest stages in Republican politics on national television, sharing your voice with the American people? That must have been quite an experience.
Well, Laura, I'll tell you, when I first found out I was going to do it, I'll back up a little bit and explain exactly how this came to be.
Yeah.
Your father-in-law, when he was president, I had just gotten through the Republican primary and I was going into the general election. He called me and asked me to come up to the White House. He said, bring your whole family, it'd be beautiful. So we came up, we had this incredible time at the White House, everything was great. And then, we had to spend a little bit of time with him alone, and then we left. And then I went back. I was staying at the Trump Hotel, and then a
Great
very
hotel.
large man in a suit. Great hotel. A very large man in a suit came up to me and he said, "Excuse me, sir. Rudy Giuliani's son would like to smoke a cigar with you tonight." Now I was like, "Yeah, well, that sounds like a great idea." And so
Totally
and I
normal.
almost declined because I was with Christina, and we were just about, we hadn't been married yet. She'd never been to Washington. I was like, "Oh, well, I want to take her to a bunch of these incredible, monuments, all these things." She looked at me and she said, "Honey, we have our entire life to do that. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Go smoke a cigar. You'd love that." And so I went out. We were on this one area. We were not supposed to smoke cigars anyway, so I won't tell you where we were, but it was incredible.
Oh.
One of the best cigar smoking spots I've
Well,
ever
I'm
been.
taking notes,
So I went out there, and then there's like 4 or 5 other guys, Rudy Giuliani's son, and so we sit there and we're smoking cigars. My chief of staff's with me, my team's with me, and we're all just kind of laughing, cutting up, just talking about life and the campaign and what it's like in Washington. And then all of a sudden it gets deadly serious. The guy leans forward and says, "Madison, if you have 5 minutes to talk to the entire country, what would you say?" And I realized at that very moment who these people were. I realized they were in charge of the Republican National Convention, and this was a tryout. And I was like, "Oh wow, okay, this is the moment." And so I said, if I could speak to everyone, I would say that in this country, we kneel to the cross, but we stand for our flag. And it means that we are humble and we're kind and we're caring people in this country. Most of us practice Judeo-Christian values, and we love our neighbor and we take care of everybody. But if you mess with us, if you push Americans to the point of fighting and put us back in a corner, we will come out swinging. We will win every single time because our spirit is indomitable. And so when I got to stand up on that stage and show to everyone that no matter what circumstance you are in, no matter how hard your life is, you can get up as long as you have the support of your friends and your family around you, and as long as you are willing to be resilient regardless of what you have to fight. And that was just this absolutely incredible moment. And then to find out that 65 million people watched that, and so many people gained courage after that. And I had so many other people in wheelchairs reach out to me saying, "Hey, you know what? I had given up on life, but you really gave me a light."
Oh my gosh.
It was the greatest honor of my life.
That's incredible. Wow. I mean, yeah, obviously for so many reasons. And I got to speak at the convention as well. And I got to tell you, it's, I've spoken so many places and at so many Trump rallies and different venues. I mean, there is something really special about that stage and about the whole experience. I agree. But gosh, you inspire people, Madison, all day, every day. You just have such a positive outlook on everything. And I think it's one reason people are drawn to you. And, your optimism in this country and who we are as Americans, I think is contagious. And I think I would love more people to be like that. I want to go back for a minute to Christina, your wife, because I found out something. You told me this on Saturday night. Your wife and I share something in common. Apparently, we would be great workout buddies. Would we not?
You actually would, yes. She is a monster when it comes to CrossFit. She's incredible. You guys would get along super well. But so she doesn't compete very much anymore. But she still works out so fervently. I'm telling you, you and her, I think she probably share the same characteristic. You can just get in that mental state where you can take any amount of pain, and you can just keep going for hours and hours at the same time. And I think it's incredible. You both are much tougher than I am.
Oh, no, I don't know about that. And by the way, for the record, I've never competed. I started doing, and I told you this the other day, I didn't even know anything about CrossFit. I was like, all these CrossFit people are crazy. Like, why are they so obsessed with this? And then one of my friends kind of dragged me to this gym, I don't know, like 6 or 7 months ago. And now I'm one of these crazy people, Madison. It's happened to me. And now it's just like, it's out of control. I don't even know what to do. So obviously your wife and I got to get together in the gym at some point, and we'll post a video. We'll just say that.
Well,
right?
Laura, I'll tell you, that is actually how I met Christina. So I
really?
I made a really good friend overseas. I had a big surgery coming up, and so I wanted to go on a trip before that. And I made a great friend overseas, and then he would live down there for work one day, and it turned out the entire thing was a setup. He invited Christina at the exact same time. And she didn't know either, and then he just wanted to put us both in the same room and see what would happen. But didn't tell either of us what was going on. And so, we got there, and we had a great workout. There was a cookout at the same gym later that day. And so I got to spend time with her. And I was actually scheduled to go to a West Point ball with another girl who's just a friend of mine. And I ended up calling her and said, "Hey, do you mind if I actually take another girl to this ball? Because I think I just found the girl that I'm going to marry." And then she was like, "Oh my gosh." And she was excited, very gracious. And then I went and talked to Christina. And I said, "Hey, I know you don't really know me, but will you fly to New York with me and go to a West Point ball?" And she was bold enough. She said yes. And turns out she had gone home and told her mom that she thought she was going to marry me as well. So we
was
both
this
knew
after
right
the
away.
first meeting?
It was within the first couple hours.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And you both felt that way. That's pretty true. That's amazing. Not everybody gets that. Although my first date with my husband, we talked for probably 4 hours. We only had ordered drinks, and I realized, because I was a waitress for a long time, like how annoyed the waiter or waitress must have been with us. Because I'm like, oh my God, we've ordered like 2 glasses of wine and we've been here for 4 hours. And they're like, my tip is going to be horrible. So I felt really bad about that. But it was interesting because we had such great conversation. I knew something was going on there. So that's so cool. Wow. And here you are, married. Are kids in your future, Madison? I think you would like to have kids. And how many would you like?
Oh gosh, if I could pick, I don't know. I'd probably go 3, 2 boys and a girl.
Okay.
So both my sons would have a brother to wrestle with, but then they get to take care and just take care of the little princess. But turns out, so I have 4 nieces right now, and I'm pretty sure actually the girls would start whipping up on the brothers. I have no doubt about that.
100%. My daughter is 23 months younger than my son, and my son will take something away from her. She is not having it. Let me just tell you, she is going to beat him up really soon. So he's got to watch out. I mean, he's much bigger, but yeah, you're right. They'll watch out for the girls.
Yep, I'm telling you, these patriotic girls, they don't back down. You guys have more fights than I think all the men in the world. It's incredible. But Lord, thank you so much for letting me come on your show. But yes, I do want children. I'm trying to convince Christina to make it sooner rather than later. But it's ultimately up to her.
We'll work on her. Well,
Okay.
Madison, we appreciate everything you do for America. We appreciate everything you do for North Carolina. Thanks for coming on. We'll get you back on. We'll get you in the gym with your wife. So thanks as always to you for everything you do. And thank you to everybody at home. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View.